Hello and welcome to today's video where we are going to make this here bowl, which you can put whatever you want in. Any kind of liquid thing, anything, even solids you could put in here if you wanted to. It's a great little bowl to kind of start with if you are a beginner potter, if you want to, I don't know, just kind of perfect the little beautiful roundness of the bowl. Obviously you can adapt it to be a bit wider, a bit bigger, whatever. Today we are actually going to be making a bigger version of it. But yeah, this is what we're doing. So to start with, you're going to need a wheel, you're going to need some water and a sponge and a few tools. I have my wooden knife tool, my rib tool, pin tool just in case I need to cut the rim off, a ruler, and obviously you need some clay. This is the main thing that you need for sure. I have some clay here that I'm going to attach a bat to, and I have clay which is going to be the bowl. So this is around 800 grams of clay, and this is the wrong piece of clay. And this is the clay that you need for the bat ring. It's like 150 grams of clay or something, just a tiny bit. To start with, we are going to attach bat to the wheel. So take your little piece of clay and just flatten it out onto the wheel head. So you should center this kind of roughly and just make sure it's nice and flat. Okay, so this is centered. This is just a wee pad of clay. Once it is centered and flat, you can make a little spiral on it. This kind of creates little ridges for suction for the bat to adhere to properly. So we're going to kind of center this in the middle so it's not distracting. I'm just using the concentric rings on the wheel to help me do that. Oh, I did a bad job there. It's centered enough, and I'm just going to bash it down to get it to stick. Cool. And now we're going to pretend that this is the wheel head and center our main piece of clay on this. Great. Once you have centered your clay, you can open up, and you want to open with kind of a bowl shape immediately. So don't kind of widen it as you would a cylinder. I'm going to keep about this much base so that I can trim a foot ring into it later as well. And I'll get my sponge in there to really compress the base so that we don't get any S-cracks. And then we're going to pull the walls up. So with bowls, you want to pull the walls up and get the height that you need before widening them out. Just because once you start getting too wide, you're fighting with all the forces on the clay, like the centrifugal force that wants to bring it down. So yeah, it's important that you go up before you go out. Now I'm going to start scooping the clay outwards and pulling that wall that I've pulled up, kind of flaring it out. And the movement that I did to do that was this kind of scoop movement. So it's from the very inside, and I'm bringing my fingers from the center of the clay all the way to the shoulder, and then I'm scooping my fingers around. And that kind of makes that round shape. So it's not completely flaring out, it is scooping back up. I'm gonna do that again. A really handy tool while you're throwing bowls is a mirror in front of you so that you can kind of see what you're doing. You might have noticed me kind of being on my side here like that. That's purely for video purposes only. I usually would have a mirror right in front of me so that I can throw and kind of look straight ahead and not have to faff around moving around like that. And I think it really actually does affect the shape of your pieces as well if you are constantly moving to the side to check the form rather than just kind of staying still and just moving your hands and being quite stable. So yeah, if you don't have a mirror, I would suggest getting one and having a play with it because it really does help your throwing. I'm just going to clean up on the inside now. It's looking like I'm quite happy with this shape. So I'm going to clean up on the inside. And I'm always supporting with both hands, so my fingers on the outside are not really pulling at all, they're just kind of just supporting so the rim doesn't get pushed out too much. And I'm going to clean up the edge a wee bit with my rib tool. This is another point where a mirror would be really helpful. So I'm just gently pushing with my inside fingers so the clay meets the rib on the other side. And you'll notice we've got quite like a thick shoulder here at the bottom. And that's fine, that is kind of supporting the clay while it's wet, and we can trim into that later when it has dried to leather hard. If you are throwing multiple of these, then you're going to want to measure the size of the rim and the height. And if you have a throwing gauge, then you can set that up now. If not, kind of note down what your measurements are. I'm just going to clean up the inside one more time. Especially down the bottom where the base and the shoulder kind of meet. I want that to be nice and round on the inside. And when I'm throwing bowls, like I really care about the internal form at this stage rather than the external form, because the external form we can play with later. We can have a go at kind of changing that when we're trimming, but the inside form you want it to be as perfect as you can get it at the throwing stage. Cool, I'm really happy with that. So I'm gonna go in with my wooden knife tool and just make a little channel for my wire to cut through. And I like to throw clean, so I just sponge off my bat at this stage as well. You don't have to do this, it's kind of optional. But I like it, makes everything a little bit tidier later on. I don't have my wire. Right, I'm done, so I'm gonna chop it off. You can either, while you're cutting, you can either have the wheel moving or you can just cut straight through. It's kind of a preference thing, it doesn't make a difference really either way. And now we'll take it off the wheel. Where's my spike on a stick? To get the bat off the wheel, just grab a tool like this where you can kind of lever it. I don't know what this is called, it's like a type of trimming tool, little spike, but you want to get under there and just wedge it off. And that's it. So you can set this aside to dry. It might take a few days, it might maybe take a day if you're throwing in the summertime, and then we can trim it when it's dry. Hi, welcome back to day 2. We have a beautiful leather hard bowl and we're ready to trim it. I'm going to put a foot ring into it. This is what a foot ring looks like. We'll maybe do it a little bit wider because this is a bigger bowl. But basically it's just something for the bowl to kind of stand up on. And it gives it a bit more presence and a bit more oomph. I'm going to start by attaching the bowl to the wheel head. And to do that, I just stick it down. I don't use any wee lugs. I wet the wheel head. I swish the bowl around a little bit and I kind of push it into center, and I use the concentric rings on the wheel head to help me do that. And then I hold my finger still, and where it comes around and like hits my finger, I know that I need to push it away from that point. So it just, oh damn, she's really stuck. Push it away slightly from there, and just repeat that a couple of times. And that's pretty well centered. So I just bash it down. If you've got quite a thin base, be careful when you're doing this, and maybe just tap kind of where the base and the wall meet, but I know this has got a nice sturdy butt, so it's okay. And it's stuck down. If you use too much water for this, or your pot is too wet, then it kind of doesn't work, and the same if it's too dry, it will just unstick itself. So it's kind of this perfect leather hard point, and you have to have the perfect amount of water. It takes a little bit of practice, but I think it's really worth it because you don't have the annoying lugs to deal with. Right, we're going to start by just flattening this base off and getting rid of some of this excess clay around here. And now I am going to use a square-ended loop tool to trim into this. If you're making these to a specific size, then you might want to measure the foot ring and use like little calipers or a little ruler to mark where you're going to trim, and so all of the foot rings are the same size. But because this is a one-off, I'm just going to do it by eye. I'm left-handed, so you would probably be doing it like this. I am throwing in a right-handed way though, so just kind of adjust how you need to. But I start off by just drawing two lines where the foot ring is going to be. So you do that by holding your trimming tool still and letting the bowl rotate. I'm going to go a little bit wider than that. So that's going to be my inner part, and then this will be the outer part. And so this is where the foot ring will be, and we're going to remove all of this clay and all of this clay around here on the shoulder. So let's start with the inside bit. If you're not familiar with this actually, then you might want to just measure how deep your base is. So let's get rid of this in the middle to start with. So I'm just going to remove some of this clay, starting from the inside and going out to that first line that I drew. And we'll do that again. When you're holding your trimming tools, just kind of think of them as like a chiseled Sharpie point or something. Like if you hold it at this angle, you're going to create a narrow line, you know, like a thin line. And if you hold it with this flat part, then you're going to create a nice flat line. So you just have to think about kind of the angle that you're holding it when you're trimming. Clean that up a little bit. We can clean that up further in a moment, but now we're going to remove this shoulder here. And I like to go in with my round end here and just get rid of loads of the clay to start with, and then I finesse it with the square end. Obviously just use whatever trimming tool you like the best, but this is kind of my favorite type. So I'm holding the tool quite tight, and I'm holding it with both hands, and I'm anchoring my wrists on the splash pan so that I'm nice and stable when I'm trimming. Cool. Now we've got the kind of draft of what we want to see with our foot ring, and I'm going to go in and remove loads more of this clay and really refine the shape. Sometimes you can work out how much clay you've got by tapping it, and the sound changes if it's really hard to explain that, but you can hear how the sound changes a little bit, the tone. I'm going to change back to my like teardrop shaped tool, and this kind of just gets a nice big surface area of the bowl, and this kind of helps just to tidy everything up. The benefit of not having lugs at the bottom is that you can do that, you can go all the way to the wheel head and get one nice kind of rounded form. So the last thing now is to go in with my sponge. I'm just going to wring it right out so it's hardly wet at all, just nice and damp, and I'm going to just soften everything. And then I wipe my hands on my overalls to just make sure there's no like little clay crumbs sticking to me, and then I remove it from the wheel. So I do that by just kind of, with wide palms, kind of just pushing and or pulling, and I kind of turn the wheel on at the same time really slowly, and it just unsticks it from the wheel. Like that. Cool, and now I'm gonna go in with my wee stamp. I'm supporting on the other side of the bowl while I do this so that I don't press it in. I'm just going to put my stamp on here. And that's it. Now I will just tidy up the rim a little bit and I will leave it to dry. Ta-da! That's it. So we've got that beautiful round shoulder, which we didn't have yesterday because obviously it was supporting the wet clay. And you can glaze it however you'd like. This one is obviously in a lovely honey colour. I use a speckled clay, and the speckles come out when it's fired, so you can't see it in here, but this is what it will look like. Thank you very much for joining me. I will be back in a week with another pottery video. In the meantime, you can follow me on the socials at mae.ceramics, and I will see you again next week for another video. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and I will answer them down below. Goodbye!